Hello, can you hear me?
I think that's better, Brother Pigeon.
Okay. So as I was saying, we have been looking at various strategic plans to deal with the dictators. And now we were at the battlefield and the battle plan. And the key messages that were coming out included how to craft a message, how to deal with the military dictatorship. And today we are looking at the other element of this on how to hit the constitution. So hit them with their own constitution. So that's what we want to read today, and then we can discuss that. If there's anybody who's willing to read for us, please read for us, and then we can have a discussion after the reading. Anybody? And welcome to all of you in general, and that one, Brother Eric. So let's start, and then we'll catch up with other people join us as we move along.
I can read, but I hope my internet will hold. I'm not sure. It's been playing up of late.
Please read for us.
Okay, are we starting with hit them with their own constitution? Is that where we're starting?
Yes, Sister Tapua, that's where we are starting.
All right, okay. I'll start to read. Hit them with their own constitution. Despotic regimes often peddle world-class constitutions that guarantee individual rights, freedom of expression, property rights, and so forth. But they're just for show and are rarely enforced. Consider the following. China's constitution. Article 35, citizens of the People's Republic of China enjoy freedom of speech, of the press, of assembly, of association, of procession, and of demonstration. Article 36, citizens of the People's Republic of China enjoy freedom of religious belief. Article 41. Article 41. Citizens of the People's Republic of China have the right to criticize and make suggestions to any state organ or functionary. On October 1, 2010, about 24 Chinese Communist Party elders signed a letter blasting the government's clampdown on free expression. They noted that freedom of speech and the press are enshrined in China's constitution. The elders noted that the mismatch between those lofty ideals and the restrictions crudely enforced in practice amounts to false democracy that has become a scandalous mark on the history of world democracy. The second example is Iran's constitution. With due attention to the essential character of this great movement, the constitution guarantees the rejection of all forms of intellectual and social tyranny and economic monopoly, and aims at entrusting the destinies of the people to the people themselves in order to break completely with the system of oppression. This is in accordance with the Quranic verse. He removes from them their burden and the fetters that were upon them. The next constitution, Zimbabwe's constitution. Chapter 3, the Declaration of Rights. Number 13 says, protection of right to personal liberty. Number 20, protection of freedom of expression. Number 21, protection of freedom of assembly and association. Number 22, protection of freedom of movement. All three constitutions guarantee freedom of expression, but not the corollary, free media. Many despotic regimes have similar constitutions, so set up a pirate radio station. If the despot shuts it down, get a team of high-powered lawyers to take the case to court. We did it with Radio I in Ghana, and we won, freeing up the airwaves and leading to media pluralism that eventually helped topple the Rawlings dictatorship. The African chapter of Human and People's Rights, the African chapter of Human, sorry about that. The African chapter of Human and People's Rights, the African chapter of Human and People's Rights was promulgated in Bengal, Ghana in 1979. Adopted on June 27, 1981, and entered into force on October 21, 1986. The Charter recognizes many fundamental and widely recognized civil and political rights, including the right to freedom from discrimination. Equality, the right due to process concerning arrest and detention, the right to a fair trial, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom of political participation, and the right to property. By June 15, 2009, 53 countries had ratified the Charter. It was not written by Western imperialists or Martian invaders. When signatories don't respect their own constitution and charters, take them to court to force them to do so. This strategy is being employed elsewhere. On October 23, 2010, nearly 2,000 people gathered in central Moscow to demand not only the resignation of Prime Minister Vladimir Putin, but also political reform and freedom of assembly. The Russian opposition protests on the 31st day of each month are a nod to Article 31 of the Russian Constitution, which guarantees the right of assembly. On October 15, 2010, hundreds of Tibetan school teachers signed and sent a petition to the government of Xinjiang province in Western China, demanding that schools preserve the use of the Tibetan language in instruction. The petition demanded that the government abide by the Chinese constitution, including Article 4. All ethnic groups have the freedom to use and develop their own spoken and written languages and to preserve or reform their own folkways and customs. Circumvent restrictions on freedom of expression. Can we scroll up, please? Thank you. Activists should always be looking for some event or strategy that allows them to allude to freedom of expression or allows them to express their views freely without fear. For example, Celebrate Human Rights Day, October 21, is Africa's Human Rights Day. It is a day when all journalists, professors, and writers should seek to publicize Africa's charter. Print it in the newspapers. Article 9 guarantees freedom of expression. It is also a day when African lawyers should file briefs of human rights violations at the African Court on Human and People's Rights in Bengal, Gambia. Adopt another country, one safe strategy. This author adopted in fighting the barbarous military regime of Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings of Ghana in the 1980s and 1990 was to adopt another African country ruled by a military dictator. There were many at that time. General Samuel Doe of Liberia, General Ayedema of Togo, General Abacha of Nigeria, General Seseko of Zaire, amongst others. I would target General Abacha, my favorite, and write a scathing commentary. In all those vitriol critiques, I always included an African solution to the problem I was discussing. Then I'd have the piece published both in Ghana and Nigeria with the byline. The author, a native of Ghana, is a distinguished economist at American University and the president of Free Africa Foundation, both in Washington, D.C., United States. I'm not a Nigerian and had no family members in Nigeria, so there was little the Abacha regime could do to me. Further, the articles never mentioned Rawlings by name, but every Ghanaian who read them could see that the Rawlings regime was also committing exactly the same atrocities and iniquities. It might be helpful to apply a similar technique. The following African countries may be paired: Algeria and Libya, Ethiopia and Eritrea, Burkina Faso and Gambia, Chad and Sudan, both are military, Uganda and Rwanda, Mozambique and Tanzania, Equatorial Guinea and Zimbabwe. In Asia, you have Burma, Cambodia and Vietnam, China and North Korea. In Eastern Europe, you have Belarus and Russia. Central Asian republics, Kazakhstan and Tajikistan, Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, Middle East, Iran and Syria, Latin America, Cuba and Venezuela. For example, an Ethiopian may adopt Eritrea, a Russian, Belarus, and vice versa. Better yet, find a friend in the adopted country, write commentaries on your country, and swap them using your name on his and his on yours. Pen names can also be used for similar effect. Sue them elsewhere. Oops. Sorry, I'm lost. The streets are not the only places to fight. I think you've gone up a bit too much. Sorry, my brother, I missed the last sentence. The last sentence on that page. Or should I just skip it? Most constitutions guarantee the right I think I'm in trouble because I think you've scrolled up before I've even read sections. Hello? Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, am I being heard at all? Because, hello, because the person in charge of the text has scrolled up before I've read a section, so I'm not sure what to do now. Oh, hello. Hi, General. Can anyone hear me? Hello. This is a funny situation. Can I be heard by anyone? Hello? General Naki?
I can hear you, Mama.
All right, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and you?
I'm all right. Eric, how are you? Eric, how are you? Maybe we could just make comment on what we've read so far because I don't have the text anymore. Anything outstanding that, yeah? General Anaki, would you like to? Oh, yes. Pigmin is coming back. Any thoughts or opinions? Comrade Pigmin. Hello? I don't seem to be heard by anyone. Hello? What's the problem? Yeah, admitting. Comrade Pigmin.
Hello, Sister Tapua. Members, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Now, I was having serious technical challenge.
Yes.
If you can make me a co-host or a host, I can share the book again, then we can do a discussion. I was not able to hear you for a good time in your last reading, so I'm not even sure if I was moving screen in the right place.
I think you started moving it too fast, and I ended up not being able to read because I had missed chunks as you were moving up. Right.
Please
So
make
I
me call so that I can be able to reshare it.
Okay.
Make consciousness. I don't know if they're all consciousness or one is speech. Make the
Oops,
one speaking the profile picture. That one is done. You should make a co-host.
Oh, the one with the profile picture.
Yeah, so that I can share. That's the laptop one.
All right. Okay, let me do that. Right. So, okay, so you're now co-host on the one with the picture.
Now, can you see what this thing?
Yes, I can see the screen.
I'm not sure if this is where we were. So let's walk down. Let's go back slowly.
Yes, let's go back.
Were we past here?
Yes, we're past it. Yeah, scroll down. Yeah, we had gone past this one.
How about that?
Yeah, you need to go up again. I think let's start with the section. What page is this? Go back up, please. Thank you. Up again. Right. I think let's start with, yeah. Let's start. Can we stop there? Can we stop?
No, in fact, Sister Tapua, I propose that we look at the previous paragraph because, of course, it's almost the same, but there's a bit difference a bit. In terms of this constitution that are fake constitutions, because there was a more of constitutions. We can discuss these constitutions a bit, then we can go to this section on circumventing the freedom. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea because what I enjoyed when I was reading the text is how to circumvent restrictions. Because I think there are things that can be done.
So, do you propose to continue first of all to finish this second part, then we discuss them at once?
I don't know, what do the others think?
Brother Eric, or do you have Brother Eric here? Or we have General Naki? What do you think?
Nah, I support whatever you guys say.
Okay.
I propose we look at the constitutions first.
Okay.
So let's start from where we started the constitutions.
All right.
And look at the errors in the constitution. So, for example, the Chilean constitution, we are told all the rights, what you need to enjoy, all those things. And then that is not what is actually going on the ground. And there's a term you see between lofty ideals and the restriction of could enforce practice amounts to false. So there's an element of false democracy. So does it mean when there's an absence of speech, press, assembly, association, that's a false democracy? What do you think, Sister Tapua, on that China case?
Yes. For me, the China case shows us what a false democracy is. Because all the constitutions, including the American Constitution, which is being battered left, right, and center by Trump, is just an example of how unrealistic these constitutions are. They're ideals, yes, but who is following them? And yet they punish African countries. Not that they should be excused for, I mean, they pick on us and say we're the ones who are breaking the rules when nobody is breaking the rules. I mean, when nobody is keeping the rules. So for me, it's just a capitalist way of keeping us in line. That's all. Because the people with the money, the people with protecting capital are just doing so irregardless or regardless of the constitution. That's my thinking.
General, what do you think? General Naki?
Yes, thanks. Yeah, I think the Chinese, like the white people, just generally, are just using the word democracy to get votes or to win people's hearts. Because the first thing or the most obvious sign is the fact that the Chinese president, this man, Xi Jinping, how many years has he been in power? No opposition, no nothing. But the constitution is talking about the freedom of what. So it's just a way to appeal to the US because we need to remember there wouldn't be the China we have without USA. So I think it was just a way of them copying the constitution of the Europeans to kickstart their own Republic of China government, you see. Because if you can check the key words here that are happening, Trump is calling America the Republican era because Trump is a Republican. And China, on the other hand, is calling itself the Republic of China and it is forcing itself to take over Taiwan and claiming that Taiwan is the province of China. So we see the same mindset here, just that we are exposed to the European mainstream media and Chinese are not really talking about the shortcomings of their government. But it's the same. They're doing the same thing. There's nothing different. So by closing, I would say that China, like any other European states, have just copied the African system of democracy so that they can use it to kickstart their states. Otherwise, their states are authoritarian, autocratic. Thank you.
Now, General, you are raising a very important and interesting angle on this. Now, US claim to be democratic, and they claim that any country in the continent that do not follow democracy is all those things they want to remove, sanction. Why have they never sanctioned China, which does not appear to be democratic as per the US thinking? And how comes the so-called China that appears to be undemocratic is one of the progressive countries as well in terms of development and whatever? Well, the country that call itself democratic still violate a lot of human rights as well. or that democracy is only applicable when it comes to African context, and African countries will be told you're not democratic, you're democratic. Where is the honesty in this conversation about false democracy that somebody's purporting here? Yes, I know there are problems between what is in law and what is in practice. For example, in Kenya, the constitution of Kenya almost is the same as what Chinese is saying here. And the constitution of Kenya is even against what you call abduction and detention. But in Kenya context, the only courts have been the defenders of the constitution, because the government will violate constitution any day. They always see a constitution as a barrier towards what they want to achieve, because basically most of government do not have good intention for the people. So the only block they have is constitution, and they will always go around the constitution. If the judiciary is not strong enough, the government will always have its way. I don't know what you think, Sister Tapo.
I totally agree with you. And this brings to question why everyone is pretending that they're democratic. In other words, is the capitalist trying to hoodwink the ordinary people
about democracy so that we toe the line? But in actual fact, they don't have the people's interest at heart at all.
There is nothing Ubuntu about what they're doing. Democracy is far removed from protecting the people and the people's interests. It's just used to lie.
But Sister Tapua, there's a time I was questioning democracy, and that was when we were having the third anniversary or fourth anniversary of Traore leadership in Nairobi. The question was, what is the definition of democracy? The simple definition they give us all around is that it is the rule of the people, by the people, and for the people. Now, must that rule pass through an election to be the rule of the people, by the people, and for the people?
There's nothing. There's no, I mean, we don't have an example of that in the world today, except on paper. And except when they want to use a whip against the Maduros of this world.
Now, let's look a bit, let me look at what Iran is saying. That with due attention to the essential character of this great woman, the Constitution guarantees the rejection of all forms of intellectual, social tyranny, and economic monopoly, which is basically capitalism, and aims at entrusting the destinies of the people to the people themselves in order to break completely with the systems of oppression. Now, what is the Iran case? Jarunaki, is this really what's going on in Iran? Because this then could guarantee probably a socialist government or a communalist or whatever you call Ubuntu government. Is it really what is in practice in Iran? Is Iran government can be considered to be either an Ubuntu government? General, I know you read a lot in that topic. Are you able to share more on this Iran government?
Thanks, my brother. Yes. No. Iran is not its government system is not based on Ubuntu, because if it was, then the Iranians would be actually assisting us as Africans on a more mutual standpoint. Yes, they are assisting us like with the AS, Traore, Burkina Faso. But now the thing is, before Burkina Faso, what else? You see. So the Iranians are not necessarily our enemy, as the Africans as well. So I can say its governance, it's good for its people, because if you can check the population of Iran now, it's no longer the ancient Sumerian people, which were predominantly brown to black people. We have the so-called white Arabs now that are ruling there. So obviously, their governance is also a copy of the European constitution. That's why you can see that Iraq, Iran, Pakistan, India, before they gained independence, it was more or less one country, a British protectorate. So when the British left these people, they fragmentized them, you see. So for instance, Pakistan was a province of India, of British India. But now it's a country on its own, but it's the same people. Hence now there's a tension and war going on there. Same with Iran and Iraq. The Americans, it was one country, and then they split the countries. And then now Iraq went into war with Iran. You understand? It's just a repetition of what was happening in the 90s up until now. You see where America is using geopolitics, you understand, to collide peoples that they deem as a lower rank than white supremacy, so that they can continue extracting the resources. So, in short terms, the Iranian constitution cannot be a Bantu constitution due to the fact that it's a copy of the European constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, General. Before I go to Sister Tapua, is there any country, even including in Africa, that can have a constitution close to Bantu constitution, which is the Ubuntu constitution? Is there?
Yes, my lord, there is. For instance, Haiti, the Barbados, most South American countries are using the Bantu system, which is called the Tartarian system. Because the Ubuntu system before the New World or the Old World or before the fall of Egypt, the whole world was using the Tartarian system. That's what they call it academically. They were using the Tartarian system to govern the government of the earth. That's why even when you check the history of the Rothschild, before they were the world leaders in the central government system, when they took over the buildings of governance in Europe in that time, they took over the buildings that were buildings used by the Tatari. They were used with the Tartarian system, which was the Bantu-based banking system of bartering and equal value chain system, and the support of communism, not the communism, the one of Russia, like the one of communalism, the one of shared quality in Africa. So that was the system that was there before the Europeans arrived, Romans, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you for that education. I think it's worth, and you may looking forward for more. Sister Tapua, please come in. And welcome Raskofi and Brother Mauli. Sister Tapua.
Thank you very much. Please, can you scroll back up to Iran? Because I'm interested in asking questions on I think it sounded like the preamble. Okay, with this one, it says, with due attention to the essential character of this great movement. And I wondered what the essential character is. But my question is more on the next phrases. The Constitution guarantees the rejection of all forms of intellectual tyranny. I asked myself, what's intellectual tyranny? Why would people draw a constitution that mentions intellectuals as tyrannical or social tyranny? So I'm thinking we might need to just briefly talk about what could constitute intellectual tyranny, and then what constitutes social tyranny, and then what we mean by economic monopoly. And then the next phrase that I would have a question with, for me, this is just, I think it's a bluff. The aims of, it says, and aims at entrusting the destinies of the people to the people themselves in order to break completely with the system of oppression.
I'm questioning this because I don't want to sound like a dictator, but for me, this system is saying the people themselves, who are the people themselves? And when they break completely from the system of oppression, what system are they going to put in place? Because as far as I'm concerned, systems set up parameters. So we've got a system that ensures freedom. But if a system is to ensure freedom, it acknowledges that there is the other side, which is oppression. So when we are saying to break completely with the system of oppression, are we saying that people will then be truly free as if there was no oppression? Because we're forgetting dialectics here. So I would want us to maybe talk a bit about what is intellectual tyranny, what does social tyranny look like, and economic monopoly, and then systems, oppression, systems. What are we going to have in its place? Because I've had discussions with people who were saying Traore is a dictator. He's forcing people to build roads and all these things. And I'm going, what? So that's that's the discussion direction I'd hope we will pursue on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Pua, for what you are pointing in regards to Iran. Anybody want to contribute to this? We are actually looking at various constitutions and how they actually go contrary to what they assure the people. So anybody want to comment on that before I come in to what Sister Pua is raising on Iran?
Sorry, I'm going to have to come back. Is that okay, Chair?
It's okay.
Because when I look at Iran and Iraq, you know, these are the societies with the, is it the cultural police? What do they call them? The ones that go about making sure that women are dressed appropriately. That's
Is it the Sharia law?
Yeah, but that's social tyranny, is it not?
It can be. It can be social tyranny, yes, Sister Tabua.
So I'm thinking these guys were writing a constitution, and that actually is the opposite of what they're practicing. Because intellectual tyranny challenges religion. And basically, they organize their society around their religion. And their religion forces people to behave in a particular way so that their social organization revolves around Sharia law. I don't know. That's just my thinking. I don't know much about it.
But what do you think about this intellectual tyranny?
See, the thing is, with intellectual tyranny, to a tyrannical system is one that induces fear and moves people, attempts to move people from their beliefs. In other words, from the things that they think about that are not factual. So when we're talking about intellectuals are people who are well read, who make decisions based on reason and logic. And what they are saying is intellectuals have the potential to make people not believe. because the way they think and the way they structure their arguments is such that it can force people into some kind of cognitive dissonance where there's a discord in their minds about what's happening. And that's why I'm saying there's something here about the Constitution reflecting the society for which it's trying to protect.
Okay, I'm trying to scroll the Kenyan Constitution a bit because there's something that has made me to go look at that Constitution and what you're saying. Now, was it in the last class that I was sharing the article of Kenyan Constitution where Article 1 says that the sovereign power belongs to the people?
Yes.
And the question
Yes.
is asking, do really that power belongs to the people? That's what the Constitution says. Does it really belongs to the people? And if you look at Article 2, it says that the people may exercise, which means the people have a right not to exercise it indirectly, because they may use it directly or indirectly. But if you look at, you see, they use the word or through their democratically. The word democratically.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even you ask yourself, how will the people then exercise their power directly?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no in the world, probably in constitutions, that even can allow citizens to exercise their power directly.
Mm-hmm.
Every government have something like either parliament, a local council, or such other things. Then, what I'm interested on this constitution of Kenya is actually under the rights, because we are reading various fallacy here in most of the constitution, and I'm interested in Article 21, if I'm not wrong, Article 21 or 23 of the Constitution of Kenya. No, Article 23. Let me check Article 23. We are doing the review of the constitutions on various countries and how they speak contrary to what they write in the constitutions. We are looking at especially the level of freedom of expression. And many constitutions guarantee that, but in reality, there is no such a way where the citizen can even exercise freedoms. So, Sister Tapua, kindly take up a bit. There's something I need to sort. Let me go back to the usual page for a book, so you share a bit. So, Sister Tapua, please share a bit as I go back to this book. Then I'll come back. There's something I need to handle very fast.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Welcome to the people who just joined us. We're talking about the contrast between what is in a constitution, which dictators use to give the veneer that they're being fair, and what actually happens on the ground. So we're given three constitutions: the Chinese, the Iranian, and the Zimbabwean constitutions. Those are the ones that we've been reading. And we were now looking at the Iranian constitution and wondering to what extent these constitutions are breaking the rules or moving away from them, or any other comments that we would like to make. Is there anyone who would like to maybe talk about our constitution or their constitution, and then how it's not enacted as democratically as it could? Or is it possible to enact it? Anyone? I'm going to go down the list if it's okay. I know some people have just joined in, but I'm sure we could make a comment. Could I start with Comrade Ifo, please? What are your thoughts? Comrade Ifo? Comrade Ifo. If not, maybe we could go to Comrade Philip, Brother Philip. Am I being
Hello.
heard?
Hello.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening to you, my brother.
I just joined. So a question popped up in my mind. Are we trying to learn lessons from Iran for our African emancipation? Iran and the other one, Zimbabwe is an African country.
Mhm. I think the author is generally writing about defeating dictators around the world, not necessarily African ones only. So he'll give examples of any governments around the world. And in this particular situation, he's chosen the three that he has chosen. One of them is an African country. And we're trying to talk about, because in the next section, he makes suggestions about how to subvert such dictators using their own constitution. But we thought maybe we should look at the constitutions first before we read on how to subvert them.
Okay, that's excellent. I mean, so long as we can derive, I don't know so much about constitution, but so long as we can derive lessons from these two other constitutions for African development.
Mm-hmm. I'm not sure whether you had joined the meeting when Brother Pigbin was looking at the Kenyan constitution, because we've come up with such good constitutions. Even China's constitution on paper sounds like heaven, but the experience on the ground.
Yeah.
And so what we're saying is, how democratic can a country be? Because my opinion, my opinion was, it's an illusion. It's a way for the capitalists to make us toe the line.
Yeah.
And maybe for the powerful countries like America to have an excuse to go after Maduros and any such people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what other people's comments would be.
Maybe others may also wish, but certainly, I mean, it's clear that the American promulgation of democracy is a false flag. They are anything but democratic. I mean, they are autocratic to the core, and it is definitely a smokescreen. And so we would want to not follow in those kinds of steps.
Thank you very much for that comment. But brother, do you think there's a possibility of any country being democratic? What does that mean? And what would it look like?
I think there needs to be some sort of direction. A leader must provide some sort of direction. And autocracy sometimes borders on abuse of human rights. So definitely government will have to provide some sort of direction. It's suggested that what Africa needs are benevolent dictators.
I like that word.
Yes, I think it may depend on how we on this platform are defining democracy. If the law is working in a humane, probably we may suggest that it's a democratic process. if the law says people can demonstrate, and so you go on demonstration and the police come and kill you all, then that is not that's what you're talking about, the difference between the paper democracy, theoretical democracy in the constitution, and what is happening on the ground. And I think that once there's the paper democracy, there's always something to refer to when governments brief it. So these are a few of my thoughts.
Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you. Because that the whole question, like what Comrade Pigbin had asked is there a place in the world around today that we can say is democratic? Is there anyone else willing to make a suggestion or pass a comment or an opinion? I had asked Comrade Brother Ifo if he was ready to speak. So if Brother Ifo wants to speak, he can unmute himself. If not, we can go to Ras Coffee. Ras Coffee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Of course, we have constitutions guaranteeing rights and freedoms, but for some persons, they consistently face discrimination as if they are not entitled to these rights and freedoms that the Constitution guarantees. For instance, I'm a Rasta man, and the Constitution guarantees the right to education, irrespective of one's faith, the right to one's cultural practices. Yet there was an incident in Ghana where a Rasta youth was admitted in one of the best schools in Ghana, and whilst he was enrolling, they asked him to cut his locks before he could attend the school if he really wanted to be part of the school. And he said, by virtue of his faith, cutting the hair is not part of it, so the school should be considerate. It never happened until the issue was taken to court, and the court ruled that the Rasta youths, irrespective of the fact that the school has the right to enact laws for discipline, the Rastafari youth also has rights to education, and his right to education is not limited by the school's disciplinary acts. And so right there, a child's constitutional right to education would have been subverted if the parents didn't see the need to take it to court. And so for us who identify as Rastafari and are Africans, oftentimes we face this discrimination, even though we belong to countries whose constitution guarantees the right to freedom of worship, freedom, right to one's cultural practices. For instance, a lot of Rastafari are being held, they are being incarcerated by virtue of their use of cannabis. And it's been considered always as a herb in our practice. And even in our culture as African people, we have always treated this plant as a herb. By owing to some colonial conventions that we have become signatories to, which are not even enforced in some of these countries that propagated these laws. Yet in Africa, we still continue to treat our African youth men as slaves and continue to imprison them, incarcerate them, put handcuffs on them just by virtue of the fact that they know the use of a plant that others want to consider it for reasons best known to them as a scheduled drug. And so, yes, we are part of African country. We are Rastafari. The Constitution guarantees freedom of worship. Yet, it's not really practiced. It's not really effected. You face the discrimination at workplaces, in schools, just because you practice a faith that was not directly handed over by, let's say, colonial masters or what have you. So that is the little I wanted to add. Thank you for the opportunity.
Sorry, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to say anything? Anybody? I'm going to go back to my brother Ifo, if anyone, or General Naki. Welcome, Brother Coco. How are you
Your
today?
sister Tapua.
Yes.
Let us look, greetings to Brother Coco and Brother Ifo. Let us look at also this
Thanks,
part of the
Queens
African
and
Charter of
Queens.
Human Rights, African Charter of Human and People's Right, this charter. If really, does it hold anything today, you see?
Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you. Because this one, the African Charter was written by Africans for Africans. And I'm just going to quickly read through because maybe a few of us joined slightly later after we'd read. So I'll do a quick read. The African Charter of Human and People's Rights, Bogo Chapter. The African Charter on Human People's Rights was promulgated in Bunjul, Gambia in 1979, adopted on June 27, 1981, and entered into force on October 21, 1986. The Charter recognizes many fundamental and widely recognized civil and political rights, including the right to freedom from discrimination, equality, the right due to process concerning arrest and detention, the right to a fair trial, freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of movement, freedom of political participation, and the right to property. By June 15, 2009, 53 countries had ratified the Charter. It was not written by Western imperialists or Martian invaders. When signatories don't respect their own constitutions and charters, take them to court to force them to do so. This strategy is being employed elsewhere. So that section there, last paragraph on strategies.
Thank you, Sister Tapua. Just hold on there. Just hold on there. Now, taking the governments to court also depends, because the court also belongs to them. As I've said, there are very few progressive courts, if there are any, in the continent. But my key interest is these articles of this charter, are they even practical anywhere in this continent or in African countries? And what is the need then of various charters that we see every day? Charter of this, charter of this, charter of this, declaration of this, declaration of this, what of this and what of that. Just the same way they have the AU Agenda 2063, which will just remain agenda there in the paper. What do we really think about this human right, whatever charter, whether it's even working anywhere or what even need to be done, or whether do we even need to have it? That's what I'm interested to hear what people think about that.
Thank you. Any comments from anyone? I think I'm going to ask Brother Coco, who's just come in. Brother Coco, we've just read that section. What do you think about this charter?
That's interesting. I just smell foreign influence in that charter. I don't feel anything African about it. We do have our own Ubuntu, our own Maat, even our own Mandan charter, which if the Africans were doing something which was for them, they could have reverted to those, but instead they copy-pasted what was done in the West to sort of feel like they are belonging somewhere and they have something which meets international standards. There is that element there on right to private property, which is a copy, or should I call it, inserted by the capitalists. It would have been required by the Roman Dutch law adherents to put it there. Whereas we do have our own customary law and everything, but they are being undermined by the Roman Dutch law. The Roman colonialism continues. It is going through again to that same instrument. And I think the Africans know better. But unfortunately, most of those who would have written this were trained in the West. So it smells of that to me.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much for talking about internationally recognized, because when we started discussing the Chinese constitution, we clearly saw China coming up with a constitution that would be accepted by the West, because then it fitted in with them needing to be accepted by the West. But on the ground, that's not Chinese at all in character and in terms of what they're doing. Is there anyone else who'd like to make a comment on the African Charter of Human Rights? Is it okay to have ideals? Because for me, these are ideals. And of course, I agree with you, Brother Coco, that the last one on property is very un-African. What's your comment? Especially when we think of property here as land.
Yes, land in Africa belongs to the people. And the chief is the custodian of land for the people. The present, the past, and the future. We, as the people, we are transient. We actually borrow land and all those resources from our children in the future. And we are only going to look after them until they come. We have to look after them and treat all of the immovable property well for them. So as the Africans do things, everything is communal, and I don't feel anything communal about that. I think that is what we have to realize, and it's tantamount to what the Court of Arbitration was doing in New York in '65 after Dr. Nkrumah was toppled at that time when he wrote the neo-colonialism, because they wanted to creep in, quietly, when nobody could see that they were doing that. And it's the same thing. It's a clause. The tentacles of imperialism are far and wide. They always do that. So with regards to land belongs to the people. It's that is what we have to remember. But because we have all been taught now that we are exceptional, we have to aspire for exceptionalism. And if everyone will do well because of the sweat of their brow, but it's not just the sweat of their brow, because they are the best. And those who are not the best are the ones who are staying behind. But if you look at it carefully, most of those who are staying behind, who are being left behind, are Africans, or in other areas, people of the black skins. So it's to me, it's again another imperial sponsored paper.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my brother. Is there anybody else who'd like to make a comment? Comrade Eric, I know you were dropped in and out. Would you like to make a comment?
I would like to make a comment.
Eric? Brother Eric, are you able to make a comment? No?
I thought Brother If was saying he wants to make a comment, if I heard his voice.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for that. Yes. Oh, I've seen your hand, my brother. You can unmute yourself and make your comment, Brother Ifo.
No.
Thank you.
I think I have mixed feelings, but I think the way colonial countries function, and when I say colonial countries, I am including all the countries in Africa that are still using colonial boundaries. What is written in paper and what actually happens are often not related. They're not even distant cousins. And if we want to use America as an example, America has a Charter of Rights, so does Canada. But the countries and the governments continue to violate them with relative impunity. The people themselves suffer and do not enjoy the freedoms that they're supposed to have. And then if we want to talk about to use Nigeria as an example, there's still rampant discrimination for those who do not practice any of the colonial religions. Our children are not treated in hospitals if they find out that the parents are not Christian or Muslim. So I believe that I have to check, but I think Nigeria will probably have signed on to this Banjul Charter. But I don't think that they're actually implementing it. So, and I also have no interest in colonial things being stronger. I think we need to revive and strengthen our traditional ways of governance, not the colonial ways of governance. But that's my input for that. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, my brother. Thank you for that. I'm not sure what the time is. Brother Pigbin, are we okay for time?
We are having 14 minutes before, so we still have some time.
All right. Okay.
If there's no...
Okay, let Brother Koko go ahead first. Let Brother Koko go ahead first. Then let's also explore this alternative. They are saying that you take governments to courts, and they're giving examples, whether that also works. So let's first of all explore Brother Koko shares thinking, and let's also concentrate in this option that government that don't respect constitution, we take them to court, whether that really will even work. So you can, Brother Koko can speak first.
Yes,
right,
but thank you, brothers and sisters. It's I don't know how to say it, but we need to put this in somewhere, either at the back of our minds or at the front of our minds, to be honest, because you have to remember how colonization has happened in Africa. It wasn't just the land that they stole. They stole the land, they colonized the minds, they colonized spirituality, they colonized education. And you can see here where they talk about the right to religion and freedom of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom of assembly. All of these things, they are there. They are African. But what they have done is they brought this hierarchical system, which was meant for enforcing colonial order. And when they left, their minorities or their trained neo-colonialist puppets with those instruments that they had, the army and the police, is what they used to oppress the people now. And I think we covered abolishing the army before. He tried to talk about abolishing the army before, which I don't know how that would be possible. But all of this wouldn't even be needed if we were adhering to our own continental-wide constitution, which we put the human first. So humanism, African humanism, and is the one thing which I don't see sticking out here, is the first thing that we as Africans adhere by. Ubuntu, humanism. I am because we are. When we recognize that our sisters and our brothers deserve the right to all of the resources that we are getting or are entitled to, then that's when the humanity will come back. But you realize again that by colonization of the spirituality for us as the Africans, we no longer have gods in our hearts or in us. God has been commodified and God has been put out there somewhere in space. So it's difficult. They have to write something like this just so that the system that they have patched and put and left for us can somehow work. But it's here where we say the house which is rotting, where the foundation is rotting, you need to take that house all out and come up with something which works. And I think it's time we as Africans think about that, going back to our own roots. There is a paper which we're proposing to write, Comrade Pigbin. I'll come back to you to talk about it, because we're looking at MAT and Ubuntu as governance. Is those systems that they have taken out and replaced them with Socrates, Greek-style democracy, which again was a plagiarism of our own system. There are lots of things that are wrong about that paragraph, but for the sake of time, let me just stop there, but remind us that we are being taught something that we have taught them as the original, but now we are being taught, how do you call it? A plagiarized copy. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, my brother. Brother Pigbin, you were suggesting that we discuss the next paragraph on taking them to court. Is that so?
Sister
Hello?
Tapua, I'm really asking whether is it really strategy? The author is trying to bring it as a strategy that when governments on a constitution, we force them to court. Do you really think that of course, we have evidence that it does work. For example, in Kenya, there's a time when they said government stole election. It was the first time in history the Supreme Court nullified presidential election and called for a repeat election. Something that's very rare to happen across the continent, you see. There are times when governments then were taken to court for either violating the constitution. But for example, in this case, when the Gen Z were killed in Kenya, when then it's a clear violation of the human rights, no government was taken to court. Officers that committed such crimes were taken to court and they still walked out, you see. They were never arrested or even jailed or prosecuted. I'm not even a police officer, but a government minister of interior being arrested for violation of human rights, maybe torture, those are abductions, killings. So I don't think that even courts per se are a strategy to push a government, because that's then thinking that the courts are also not under the government's influence. Who appoints the judges? Who appoints all those people? Who give them the money to run their courts and judiciary? Is it not the same government? So how do you take the government in the same place? So I think there's a lot, even before we take an alternative that judiciary can work, I think it's in very rare situations that judiciary really work for the interests of the people. That's what I wanted also to hear what other people think about it. Back to you, Sister Tapua.
Thank you very much, Brother Pigbin. Anyone would like to comment on what Brother Pigbin has said? Are we saying because the courts are captured, we can't do anything? What can we do? Any comment?
The system that we have, my brothers and sisters, is meant to protect the rich and powerful. Let's not forget that, nor kid ourselves that is working for us as the people. In the African governance system, or in an ideal functioning system of governance, we as the people will be delegating our authority or our governance to the leaders. And in that being the case, whenever that leader is not doing what we ask them to do, we can recall them, or we can do whatever it is in our power to change that. But the current system that we have, it itself, even before we go to the courts, we have to wait for 5 years. And even after that 5 years, is whoever has more money to run for power, for office again. You don't see the system having in itself a mechanism in which those who are corrupt or those who are not doing or delivering what we as the people gave them are our mandates. We don't see that system protecting us. And the courts that we have, again, those courts are Western courts. They are still functioning according to how the laws had designed them. It's only those who have the money who can do it. And let's not forget again, it doesn't only go with the course, it goes with the education. I had my brother here from Lesotho at one point talking to me about customary law. He said customary law is still practiced in Lesotho alongside common law. But you don't see many of his peers studying customary law. Everybody is going for common law because common law is paying them more. So again, we have objectified the money and elevated it to the position of God. It's all there. It's a cycle. So if we are to take anything, we have to take everything back. We have to go back to the roots. We have to take the foundation and create what is African. But I think, again, knowing Professor Aiti, he will have been looking at neo-colonial institutions, the neo-colonial boundaries, because that's what he was writing this book for. He wasn't writing it for a Pan-African perspective where we are looking across all of Africa. He'll be looking at how do you defeat the dictators. He's looking at those neo-colonial puppets who are put there and then are using the colonial instruments to oppress the people. So we have to go beyond what Haiti is talking about.
Right. Thank you very much, Brother Coco. Anyone else? I'm just thinking, since the author was talking about defeating dictators, what comes to mind for me is one of the courts that we hoped would be an efficient court, the captured American court. Even Donald Trump, who's threatened to be taken there, has found ways of evading being taken to court. He's done everything, including going back into the presidency, so that he's not taken to court. So the question is, how functional is this system for the people? And what can be done to take us as Africans forward? I think that's a very pertinent question. What should we as Africans do to make it practical? We know and we're saying this is not for us. What is it that we should do to make sure the powers that be take cognizance of what we need to do? Or what should we do? Because we've got to empower ourselves. Any comments with regards to that, please? What should we do? Now that we've seen that the constitutions don't quite meet the African aspirations of where we're going, how should we go about it?
Hello, Sister Tapua.
Yes.
I think we have 1 or 2 minutes to go. But
Okay.
what I'm thinking is called upon us to think deeply. Can one section of the system work while the other doesn't work? Like, can we assume we've been looking at various sectors? So can you assume the police will work for the citizens, and maybe the other side will not work for the citizens? For example, the judiciary, the constitution. Because you look at the constitution, you're looking at the entirety of all institutions of government representing the constitution. And as Brother Cook has pointed out, even the Charter of African Human Rights, there's elements of foreign influence in it. I've even looked at the constitution you're using. I'm sure there are many countries in the continent that has never even changed their constitution since independence. Some maybe have only done amendment. And even those who have changed it, even in the process of them changing to what they think is progressive, there's still also element of the Western influence that still worked on it. And the key question is why the Western influence is interested. Of course, we know the reason. They want to still control and hold us. So I think it's very important to look at the constitution. Some years back, there was somebody who had offered to help us analyze constitutions and come up with probably a template of a constitution for the continent. So I gave myself the work to download all constitutions. In fact, I have it in my archive. So I downloaded all constitutions of 54 countries in Africa, including all constitutions of the Black Caribbean countries like Haiti, Grenada, and Barbados. Those constitutions are still with me. And if there's anybody who might look at any review, research, and even propose something on that, if they have time, they can always contact me and we see how we can look at the constitution. Because the constitution is the framework of a system that governs a country. There are sweet words we have seen that put in terms of human rights, but there are realities that also are hidden in the same constitution. So I think it is very important that we focus on the constitution, and maybe we can still give time for people who will be thinking as we move along, maybe in the next classes. But I think the constitution is the very important basis of either us liberating ourselves or us continuing to be actually controlled or to be under the colonial government. Thank you for helping us share. Permit me to allow you to also share your last thinking so that we can bring the meeting to an
end. Thank you very much. I'm just thinking, who is in the broader world that we live in, the in quotation marks international world that we live in, who is the dictator for Africans? Is it our leadership or is it the imperialists? Because I'm thinking we should find a way of defeating those people that are holding our leaders puppets. Because whilst we can say so-and-so or any one of our leaders is a dictator, we still need to acknowledge that there are people behind them who are manipulating them. And of course, a lot of them enjoy it, but we need to look at how to defeat this type of dictator who has someone else as powerful behind them. That's my thinking for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tapu, for raising that, because it take us to the practice of Africa. We have been changing presidents and ministers and prime ministers and all over, but there's no change that's happening in the continent. And what you are raising is very important. We change the front cover and forget the back page. We think that by changing the front cover, you get the change you want. Well, the same thing goes to the same back. So you change this good president, you think you have a new one, good one. The good one turned bad one, you change another one, you think it's good one. And you think that by changing Ruto must go or Mugabe must go, then everything else will be okay without working on how do you defeat the behind the scene. I think that's very important. Coco, do you have anything to say? I know you came a bit late as you are wrap up. You can meet maybe next class. But Coco?
Yeah, no, apologies. I was busy, and I think again we started late somehow. It's clear that this book, there will be some useful things that we pick from it. But let's not remember who we are, first of all. We are not just individuals coming together and then going back to those Bantustans. I call them Bantustans because under apartheid, South Africans were put into Bantustans, or in America, the Native Americans were put in reserves. So again, we are continuing to defend the reserves of the Bantustans with the colonial empire left in Africa. The day that we reclaim our countries, our nations, let me say, even away from the states which they have set here, so they can continue to control us, then it will be the way that we win our freedom back. Up until then, it won't be. This is just one book that we have to look at it, but look at it with a broader perspective, with a wider lens of Pan-African unity, because we need to look at that. I'm worried about Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, because as you can see, they want to come back into those countries. We need to move away from smaller states to a wider African unity government, because that way then we will be stronger. But for us to be strong, our ideological lenses have to grow. And I encourage everyone here who is on here tonight who doesn't go to the Thursday classes to come to the Thursday classes, because it's important that we have one voice, we have one mind as Africans, and realize that unity is the only way forward. We cannot defeat the dictators and then come back and go back to our Bantu stance again. We can't. It won't work. They will still come back and do whatever they want to do. And I thank Sister Kapua for raising the fact that we have to look behind who is controlling the puppets. It's not just the puppets we are supposed to be defeating here. It's the whole system. So thank you, comrades.
Thank you, Mother Coco, for that. I'll not repeat more. You've actually raised it clearly. And I've been having the same concern. Whether the Sahelian leaders have a picture of the entire continental unity, or they think whether their safety, liberation is small 3 countries, the final goal for them. And Nkrumah reminds us in chapter 4 and chapter 4 that if it's not collective, it's not going to work out. So if it is 2 or 3 people, it might be very hard because you have then 54 against 2 or 3. So until it's either 53 against 1, but if it is 3 against 54 or whatever, you automatically know what is the potential or the possible resource. So it's just also us to look beyond, as you're saying, Brother Coco, that we are not only Pan-African, we are conscious Pan-Africans who have to look at things in a conscious lens. So thank you for that. Brother Ifo, do you have any final word? Brother Ifo, do you have any final word you want to share in regards to the reading for today or anything?
Yeah, I'm in full alignment with what has been shared about the fact that we need to remember who we really are, not who they say we are. That's, yeah, because like a tree, if you do not know your roots, you will fall over very easily. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brother. Brother Philip, do you have any final word in regards to what has been read today or what has been shared today?
So, continue.
Brother Philip, I can't hear you. Members here, Brother Philip.
No, thank you. I think it's a very good discussion. Let's continue it.
Thank you. Brother Ras?
Please, I'm okay.
Brother Ras? Okay. Now, comrades, as Brother Coca said, we are reading this not with one mind, but with a very must understand from, first of all, where do we start from? What is our guiding direction? What is our fundamental principle, which is probably the unification of Africa as an entirety, one organization? That's what we believe in. We don't believe on a solution coming from this small state. We don't believe that defeating a dictator, if that Ruto is, will contribute to the success of the entire Africa. And whether Kenyans will be safe because Mugabe is there, or Uganda will be safe because Yoweri is no longer there. We think that the entire continent must be liberated and united. But also, this book also helps us to look at even that united Africa, in that case, how would we avoid the pitfalls of the problems that were also happening in the small states? Because there's also a possibility of even a dictator rising in that bigger stage of the United Nations of Africa, whoever the leader would be. So if you're not very conscious on how we craft and also have remedies on how we can avoid such circumstances, then we might fall in another trap. So it's very important that has been echoed by all members to look at this reading consciously, and not that we are studying the reading as students or listeners, but we are critically examining the text. So thank you very much for your time today. Let's meet again next Monday. I know we've been having challenges of our sessions on Mondays. We missed two, but looking forward to ensure that we continuously move on smoothly. So thank you for spending your data, spending your time, giving us your attention, and above all, sharing your thinking with us. Let's meet again next Monday as we continue the reading. We're almost coming to the end of this book. Bye for now.
Right. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, comrades. Thanks for sharing, Sister Pua. Go brilliantly again. Thanks, comrades.
Yes. Bye.
Sister Chapua, you're the host, so anytime you close, the meeting close. So please do so when you are ready.